weird thoughts, as in obsessive thoughts about dumb stuff, I'd be like, holy shit, my girlfriend had with another dude before me? What the When we got together, she was 24, so obviously not going to be a virgin. Or I'd be worried about getting fired for some different job like 5 years ago. So guys, Derek, moreplacemoredates.com. Today we are going to be reacting to the Your Worst Cycle thread. This is a thread one of my buddies sent me from Reddit. It's earlier this year that it was posted, but apparently this is a pretty wild thread, and he said I should make a reaction video to it fresh. I haven't even read it yet, but I can imagine what it's going to be just looking at the first sentence of the thing. It says, let's get those horror stories in here. Sometimes things go horribly wrong, or we didn't plan for something. Tell us your experience with your worst cycle to help others learn from your mistakes. So, gonna be reacting to the Your Worst Cycle thread. I might make a follow-up video after with my worst cycle to kind of go into that experience, because I feel like just reacting to this is probably a video in itself, and then maybe I can segue that into a video after of. I have some like really fucking bad ones. Like I don't even think it's just one that I can narrow it down to. So let's get into this thread. So for those unaware, each week we have a specific steroid or PED up for discussion. This week we are discussing your worst cycle. The goal of these threads is to generate discussion about the posted compound / cycle and get a wide variety of user experiences and feedback about it. These threads are extremely useful as an archive for new users and for experienced users researching a new compound. This is all anecdotal, of course, and you should take these reviews with a grain of salt. Stuff to discuss could include PIP, which is post-injection pain, if you didn't know, stories, hospital visits, prison time, benefits / gains you experience, side effects you experience physically or mentally, good or bad, details of the cycle you included the compound in, whether you like the compound or not, and whether you'd use it again, what this thread isn't for, general questions about the compound that are answered by, let's see. Okay, so basically just stuff this isn't meant for. Okay, so let's get into it. So I'm going to sort by, well, I guess best, I might as well. Let's see, so by Kitty Liquor, took Superdrol twice. Once at 19 and the second time around 20 to 21, which I don't believe I did a PCT for. Ended up causing my hair to start falling out fast and skin problems, which led to a spiral of depression and anxiety, which I eventually started self-medicating with OxyContin, which eventually led to Jesus Christ, led to IV heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine addiction that took nearly 10 years for me to get sober from. So it was a Superdrol cycle that led me to ruin the next 10 years of my life. Jesus Christ, dude. 2 years clean now from illicit drugs and alcohol. Can you imagine just going to a GNC, getting a fucking bottle of Superdrol over the counter, and then it leads to all this shit? Edit, I did add about 100, and if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, if you're too young, back in the day, GNC and these supplement stores literally sold fucking Superdrol and M1Ts over the counter. I did add about 100 pounds to my bench with the first Superdrol cycle. Went from a 1 rep max of 265 to doing 8 reps of 315 easy and 1 rep max of 365 or 385. But within a couple of years, I had stopped working out completely as my anxiety was so bad. I only left the house to go to work. Oh, and I bought the Superdrol from eBay. Crazy times. Yeah, I guess back in the day, well, yeah, I guess if this is that long ago, yeah, you could get the shit just from like GNC, eBay, supplement stores. Like it was very common. And my addiction eventually made me lose everything. Multiple car wrecks, multiple arrests, jail, rehab, bankruptcy, lost a great job making $75K. Unfortunately, 19 to 20-year-olds know everything and nobody could tell me otherwise. Wow. We have a winner. I once took tests and lost some gains post-cycle. Checkmate. How were the gains though? Jeez, dude. I went from a 1 rep max. He already fucking said it, did he not? I probably looked like shit though. Muscle imbalances, and I never stretched or did cardio. I YOLO'd pretty hard. So you had sick muscle memory gains later? That was while on Superdrol. And when I started working out again, I started from scratch and I started doing it for myself only. I started low. Man, like how inconsiderate are these fucking guys? Is this the same guy? How are the gains? So sick muscle memory, bro. Jesus. And when I started working out again, I started from scratch and I started doing it for myself only. I started low, working perfect form, compound lifts, core work and strong base. I stopped watching others or caring about others watching me. I started logging every workout and focused on constantly improving in every workout, adding at least 1 rep or 1 pound, even bought fractional plates, and I started actually feeling good. By the way, that's a really good tip for progressive overload. If you haven't seen those 0.5 pound fractional plates that you can buy on Amazon, I recommend you get those. If you are plateaued on anything, it is a very useful tool to start progressively overloading in increments much smaller than 5 pounds. So some guys, like, you can only stack 5 pounds on the bar, you know, so frequently until you're gonna hit a fucking wall, and then it's kind of like, where do you go from there? And a really easy way to continually increasing your weight without even really noticing it is just stacking on these like fractional 0.5 pound plates on each side. So you can add like 1 pound every workout without even really noticing. So that's a really good tip in my opinion. When I was 19, 20, I had bad posture and always had back pain injuries. Started incorporating yoga also. Basically, I'm trying to be a lot healthier with it and not just purely cosmetic or trying to show it off. Sounds like a very, well, obviously the situation is very rare and insane, but like the progression of, you know, at 19, 20, you only give a shit what you look like and how strong you are, and then progressing to more mature, physical goals in terms of like actual mobility and, you know, athletics and stuff like that. You know, that's pretty, a normal progression from what I've seen, and just having like no idea what you're doing going into it as well. So presumably that's the best one, but let's see what else is in here. Oh man, I have been there. It didn't started with steroids induced problems, but a random breakout. Felt bad about it. Workouts became less intense, less frequent, general anxiety, opiate/heroin abuse on the weekend to release some steam. Made the situation worse, obviously, etc., etc., etc. Image problem and drugs don't mix very well. Broke the cycle with Accutane. Godsend. Hair transplant later on. See, what's interesting is Superdrol is, it's like, yeah, at a reasonable dose. Any fucking steroid can cause hair loss, but it's actually at like a low dose, which milligram for milligram, it's so fucking potent that it could be leveraged at a low dose and still yield a significant performance outcome. I think it's one of the more hair safe ones in general, like milligram for milligram. Obviously it's not hair safe overall, and you lose, you know, like I mentioned, the lowest effective dose, you lose a significant amount of selectivity with any drug when you get to a certain dosage. Like if you remember my Nebivolol example that I did in my other video about how over 10 milligrams, it pretty much loses its selective agonism. You know, Superdrol and some of these other anabolics are kind of similar in that at a very low dose, they're like low viralization, low reasonable hair loss, and then above then beyond that, they're just like fucking side effect city. Granted, Superdrol is fucking horrible for you, by the way, so don't take this as me saying to take it. I'm just saying, in general, the people that do use it are typically over prescribing it to themselves and using more than they should be. Yeah, it's fucked up. One good thing about the drug addiction and how low it brought me is I don't really give a shit what anyone thinks anymore. I went so low that I had to stop caring, or I would have lost my mind or killed myself. I'm happy with myself now, don't really care for material things, and I have a lot more empathy for people whom society has given up on. And my hair loss actually leveled out around 23 years old and hasn't gotten any worse. And now that I'm mid-30s, it doesn't look bad. But if I could have done a hair transplant like Elon when I was 22 to 23, I would have jumped on it. You also have to understand too, with the hair loss thing, is it's not the drug itself sometimes. Like some people will take, you know, an oral and then like blame it on the oral and be like, oh, this is so bad for hair loss. When in reality, you're not going to be like totally shut down immediately. So one of the problems is when you take an oral and it crushes your sex hormone binding globulin, all of a sudden, all of the free testosterone and DHT, notably the free DHT, which is a 5 times higher affinity for SHBG than testosterone and multiple fold higher than estrogen, all of a sudden, all that DHT that was being regulated and bound up by SHBG and not free floating around to fuck your hair up is now released out into the open to wreak havoc because of this oral you're taking that nukes your SHBG. And this is why, you know, polycystic ovarian syndrome, these women with like hyperandrogen dominant states, like look at the kind of like manifestation of it via, like, what do you see in their blood work when this kind of occurrence happens? It's often their SHBG in the toilet in concurrence with, you know, high androgen levels for a female, but notably it's the free androgen profile that is problematic. If you don't have your DHT being regulated by SHBG and it's free floating around, that's a problem for your hair. It's going to fuck it up. So it's not necessarily the compound itself, rather it's the compound in conjunction with the lack of regulating mechanism for the free floating DHT that may be still in your body because you're not fully shut down yet, residual amounts, whatever, like if you're taking a test base, that too, like, you know, it all plays in, but it's not always just the inherent androgenicity of the oral itself. Let's see. How is your hair now after continuing to cycle post-transplant? I haven't started cycling yet. I will start by the end of the month. Test and deball. This is obviously something I have to be careful about. I'm on finasteride, so this should be enough to prevent test conversions into DHT. This is crazy. This thread basically just like evolved from a guy who was going to jail to now we're talking about hair loss on steroids. So this should be enough to prevent test conversion into DHT. I have RU588401 on hand just in case. I'm kind of laughing because it's like, it's almost like turning into a thread that like I would fucking talk about, it seems like. I have RU5841 on hand just in case. Other than that, I have to stay away from DHT derivatives, compounds, and Trenbolone. I don't suffer from male pattern baldness. My transplant was to rebuild a hairline I never had. You can see it in my post history. Okay, so test and deball is a pretty, I don't know, lofty goal for a cycle. Having two things that are heavily converting into estrogen lopped on top of each other, like, wouldn't be my ideal choice personally. And the finasteride would only help prevent testosterone conversion to DHT, like you mentioned, and RU, I guess, could compete with the D-ball to some extent. It's not going to, you know, be too helpful against the residual DHT as well as the metabolism of D-ball through 5-AR, but it doesn't seem to be a potent substrate for 5-AR anyways, and I guess if you're on finasteride, it's totally irrelevant. I just realized because he's on fin too. So it's not like the most hair unsafe cycle, but it's like, as far as an estrogenic burden on the body, and as well as just stacking two things on top of one another that don't really have significantly overlapping effects, I would probably choose something else as the adjunct anabolic. But I think this is essentially two test bases for one cycle. But anyways, I'm 4 years off dope myself, but almost had a relapse about 2 years ago because of the side effects of Nandrolone. So I don't touch it anymore. Just keep that in mind. Some drugs can take you back to that irrational mindset. Crazy. I know what you mean. When I crashed my E2, I had a few thoughts about using too. Yeah, with crashing your E2 is like, a lot of people don't realize how fucked up it makes you. Like, it kills your sex drive, kills like your ability to build muscle, by the way. But notably, it just like makes you like depressed as fuck. Like, I know so many people who not accidentally, they're like idiot doctor they had basically like prescribed them to overuse Arimidex on their TRT or just whatever. And then they end up with like literally single digit or zero as like barely anything for E2, and then consequently they have, you know, like dry fucking brittle joints, they feel like absolute dog shit, their libido sucks, and they're like literally like depressed as fuck. Estrogen is super important, and it is unjustly vilified in my opinion. Holy fuck, I ran a Superdrol. Man, a lot of this is about Superdrol. Jeez, I ran Superdrol a year and a half ago. When I came off it, my hormones were all over the place. Broke out, depression and anxiety came on hard, relapse on opiates, and have been struggling ever since. I never blamed it on the Superdrol, but always looked at it as the timestamp for when things got rough for me again. Let's see. Are there any other compounds in this thread? Same story, but different compound. Tren played a big role in me picking up opiates. I was also emotionally unstable then and had no business doing steroids, let alone Tren. If you haven't seen my video on what does it feel like on Tren, I recommend you watch that, and then you can see exactly what it actually feels like to be on the shit and how it can be problematic if you don't have literally all your ducks in a row and you don't have a good like just genetic response to it in general. You said meth. You're on the West Coast, I'm assuming. Interesting. You ticked every category, LOL. But 2 years, keep on keeping on, man. I'm slowly coming up to 4 myself. Okay, here we go. 500 milligrams test, 900 EQ. Didn't know how much of a handful EQ could be. Totally tanked my E2. If you haven't seen my video on the truth about Equipoise, or however the fuck you say it, Equipoise, Boldenone, undeslinate, check that out. And I basically elaborate on how it interacts with aromatase, how it can tank your E2 levels, and basically the mechanism of action behind that. And I speculate about how that may be happening. And I don't know, just kind of lay out everything you need to know about EQ and if it is something that is worth adding into your cycle or not. And it's honestly, I feel like one of my most insightful videos. And I did a very in-depth article on it on my site, moreplates.com, if you want to check that out. Definitely worth a read, in my opinion. I put a lot of fucking time into that one. There was actually a lot of significant contribution to that content from Reddit, which I then took and then interpreted that information and then applied it to all of my own theories and whatnot. It was like this huge, comprehensive hour-long deep dive into it where I'll let you watch it if you're interested, because I'll end up talking for 20 minutes summarizing it. Let's see. Didn't know it was an AI, so I thought I might be aromatizing more than usually. And I don't think it's an AI, to be honest. I kind of speculated about what I think is actually happening in the video, but it's like the net outcome is like sort of similar anyways. Up the AI and the rest was history. Dick didn't work for like 2 months. Acne all over the place, insane anxiety and weird thoughts over and over. Terrible. Felt like benzo withdrawal the whole time. So yeah, 900 EQ. One of the problems with EQ, aside from everything I outlined in my post, is the massive amounts of anxiety it gives people. Like, and I actually had a notable, I guess, consultation with a pretty notable influencer in the world, I guess, like a pretty big name. And he had front-loaded EQ, and it like totally fucked his mindset to the point where I was like, first of all, I just, don't really like EQ as a, adjunct anabolic to begin with, to depend on. But above and beyond that, like front-loading it, and especially when you don't know what your response is going to be to it, when it's like one of the most anxiety-ridden compounds ever, and the half-life is ridiculously long, it's a very sketchy compound to just like throw into your cycle and assume you're going to tolerate well. And especially front loading it to get it like fully saturated, quicker with that long of a half-life. And then you encounter some issue. It's like, well, now you got to wait a couple months for it to work out of your system. Very problematic compound. Let's see. Damn, I did 500 tests, 900 EQ, and I felt great. My E2 was definitely low, but not zero. Ate everything like it was the first meal I had in weeks. In the gym, I could just go on and on. High RPE sets with very little rest in between. 24/7 pumps. I had visible arm veins through thick, long sleeve shirts. Let's see. Weird thoughts, as in obsessive thoughts about dumb stuff. I'd be like, holy shit, my girlfriend had sex with another dude before me? What the fuck? When we got together, she was 24, so obviously not going to be a virgin. Or I'd be worried about getting fired for some shit I did at a different job like 5 years ago. That's funny. This is a good one. Just weird shit. Man, that's my classic crashed E2 feelings. When I used Masteron at twice the dose of test, I got fucked up low E2 symptoms. Obsessed over dumb shit from the past that made zero fucking sense. Almost burnt my house down being distracted, daydreaming, barbecue flames shooting up the side of my house. Fuck, dude. That was a relatable one though, because it's like, I'm sure everyone here who's done dumb cycles can relate to your mind getting kind of fucked up. I've never had like obsessed thinking, worrying about getting fired or something you did 5 years ago, but that's funny. That's funny. Holy shit, my girlfriend had sex with another dude before me. It's fucking funny. 1,200 milligrams Tren, thought I was gonna die. I think I just felt my anxiety spike. Then it got worse, realizing those sides aren't stopping for weeks. Let's see. Jesus, man, how were the gains? What was it like? Fucking Tren, man. My first cycle ever was low Tren / test administered by a dude with experience. That sounds good. Low Tren / test on my first cycle administered by a dude with experience. It went great. 10 years later, I decided to run one on my own. I cannot remember the ester, but it was higher than E to the effect of double, to which I didn't adjust the dose. What? Higher than E? So what, like Tren hex? Like, what does this even mean? To the effect of double. Had heartburn to the point where I couldn't breathe comfortably. 2 episodes of Tren cough and my cholesterol labs would signify that I lived at McDonald's. Broke my finger and partially tore an ACL playing football halfway through, but kept up the workouts, which led to shitty lifts and more injuries. Finished the cycle with zero knowledge on PCT. Self-medicated my own depression, which led to marital issues. Lost most of my gains. The list goes on. Eye-opening experience though. I benched 455 weighing 175 and learned how to read about the shit I was putting into my body. So this is like classic, like, you know, guys going into stuff before they know what to do and then kind of like learning after. It's like literally the most intelligent people I know are guys who did dumb fucking shit and then ended up like researching how to fix it after. Me included. Let's see. I read this as your first cycle for some reason. Check the comments to see a bunch of people blasting Tren. Tren E over 600 a week is an absolute mental disaster. Edit. When I did 800 milligrams, I was waking up checking the checking the house with a gun. LOL. 350 milligrams and I'm breaking up with my girlfriend spontaneously. Getting super agitated over nothing. LOL. This is what I'm telling you guys about Tren. It's just not fucking worth it unless you're stepping on stage or doing a photo shoot. And even a photo shoot you could argue is like not important enough. But anyways, second time I ran Tren right now and will definitely limit its use in the future. I think it changes me even more than I noticed too. My girlfriend will be venting about her mom having cancer and I'll literally feel zero empathy. Very numb feeling. I don't even think it's like numb. You just are like always like on edge and so agitated. Like you're just ready to be like, somebody's like telling you something they think is important. You're just like, you're in your head. You're like, you're a fucking idiot. You're stupid. Shut the fuck up. 350 a week. I had 2 girlfriends. Happy face. Having run up to 700 Tren over summer, I concur completely. Some of you will remember when I posted on here about a month ago saying a guy had thrown soda at my car at the gym I had just joined. Turns out the next day, one of the reception girls told me that it's just nectar from the trees near the parking lot, which blows down on the cars and it happens all the time. Everybody's pissed about it. Was ready to track down some random guy I blamed for it and fuck him up or quit the gym because I didn't need this shit. This is my brain on this much Tren. Man, that makes me nostalgic. Blew up at a grandma walking on the bike lane and started arguing with her loudly in public. Tren cringe. Walking in the bike lane while you're on cycle. She's mad, lad. Fuck. Found out the hard way that my personal tolerance to 19 Nords is in the hundreds at most. Trest 100 milligrams per week, which is meant, by the way, if you didn't know. Deca and Tren 150 to 200 tops. High dose Deca totally fucked me up and got me to throw everything to the trash 2 years ago. Let's see. Let me see if I can find another one. And then maybe we'll wrap it up. There's a lot more than I thought in here. This is actually really fucking funny. Damn, some people really shouldn't touch that stuff. For me, it's Nandrolone. On 420 mgs per week, I became depressed, anxious, jealous, petty, angry, miserable fuck. Once I realized it was the Nandrolone, I cut it out and won't take it again. Tren, on the other hand, makes me level-headed, confident, and controlled. 700 milligrams of Tren A is the worst side effect was being more sweaty and passing indigestion. I wish I could use Nandrolone. I put on a lot of weight and never had fuller muscles than when I was on NPP. Alas, I cannot. I think a lot of people have at least one drug they should not use. Yeah, there's a lot of individual response at the end of the day too. It's not just like this drug is like no one should use it. Like I would argue Tren. The reason I say Tren though is because like the majority of people have a shitty response to it. Whereas like, you know, stuff like Nandrolone is a bit more like hit or miss. And like test, like most people respond like great to it. You know, Dianabol, you know, there's certain compounds that are like overwhelmingly like positive and then there's some that are like overwhelmingly negative. And yeah, there's gonna be like token individuals who are like respond shitty to the stuff that's like mostly positive and people who respond well to the stuff that's mostly shitty. But, you know, it's up for personal interpretation at the end of the day. Yikes, I'm expecting a whole lot of shit for telling this, but oh well. Ran 2 orals before I started pitting. Probably my worst cycle ever. 40 milligrams T-ball and 40 milligrams Epistain every day for 4 or 6 weeks. Don't remember precisely since it was years ago. After the second week, the suppression hit hard. Dick obviously stopped working. I don't know why there's quotation marks around it. Like, I'm pretty sure, like I guess because it didn't stop like pissing, then it still functions as like urinating. I don't get the quotation marks. Dick obviously stopped working and had absolutely no interest in sex anymore. Tired all the time. Had to take several naps during the day. Used to wake up 30 minutes later because I was drenched in sweat. Slapped myself in the mirror before dragging myself to the gym. Cramps literally everywhere, fingers, toes, my jaw once, you name it. Lost my appetite for roughly 5 days. Went from eating roughly 3,500 to 4,000 calories to probably 1,000 to 2,000. Didn't even run a liver or kidney support and didn't get blood work. Fuck me, big mistake, miserable cycle, always run test. DNP, literal waste of energy, time, joy, bed sheets, workouts, health for mediocre results as its side effects drop. Total daily energy expenditure close to BMR, only for the worst rebound ever. Looks decent in theory, but in reality, every other fat burner is better as they suppress your appetite and raise your BMR and TDEE via being energizing. It's the equivalent of a suicide diet, and no one smart would ever have to resort to it. I'm a huge idiot. I don't like DNP either. I did a video on my review of it probably a couple of years ago on this channel, as well as on my blog, and you can check that out if you're interested. But yeah, I'm not a big fan, to be honest. Yeah, there's some other really funny ones in here, I bet too. There's a lot, but this video is gonna end up being 30 plus minutes if I read them all. So anyways, hope you found that entertaining. You know, maybe drop your worst cycle in the comments down below if you have a funny story. Or, you know, not all of these are funny. Some of these are actually, like, obviously you have sympathy for some of these guys because they experience some pretty significant life complications as a result of their use. So, you know, obviously, you know, have some sympathy for that, and maybe just like post your funny ones so we're not, you know, just like, I don't know, like you post whatever the fuck you want. Post your worst cycle, and then it acts as a reference point for people who are trying to decide if they want to jump into this realm. We can show them the reality of the kind of stuff we have experienced, and it'll probably help some of the young guys or guys who are just trying to figure out if they want to do it or not, to see kind of the reality of what guys in our community have experienced. Because, you know, I'm pretty sure most people here who've done cycles have at least like one experience where they're like, fuck, that like really sucked. So not really trying to convince people to not, but just like get a reference point of what the worst case scenario is for most of us here. So anyways, drop a comment, helps the algorithm. Much appreciated when you guys do. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates_moredates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below, as well as my TRT clinic, Gorilla Mind nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode pre-workout formulas I designed myself from scratch, my recommended lab test panels. And if you want to subscribe to the newsletter, that's the only way you'll get sent my updates, where I do my deep dive written articles on bodybuilding pharmacology and endocrinology and whatnot. For example, my EQ article, you would have got sent that if you were on the list. So I recommend you subscribe to that. A lot of incentive to do so, because we have private sales through the list too for Gorilla Mind sometimes, as well as like certain products that I'm affiliated with and whatnot. That helps support the channel, and just like private sales, stuff like that you're probably not going to get notified of first if you're not on that list. So check it out. Anything else I'm associated with, video description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll do a second video right now. Actually, I'll record it for my worst experiences, and I'll upload it probably later today or something. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.